Hello, welcome to Front Royal 2020 election, and we have Mike McCool here is running for candidate for mayor, and Mike came in earlier this and had definitely some ideas and visions of what you wanted to do. So now we're into the campaign, and we're 9 days away.
Oh, yeah, about a week. Tomorrow will be a week.
Tomorrow will be a week.
8 days. That's right. Eight days a week. Yeah,
that's right. Are we expecting something? What do they call them? October surprises or anything?
It is a lot. People keep asking me, well, how's the campaign going? How's the campaign going? Well, how in the world would we know? I mean, I talk to people that already love me, so they all tell me, oh, great, great, great. But, there's several other sides,
Yeah.
So you really don't know. And, I talked to Carol Tobin, the registrar. She says they have till the next day, Wednesday, at noon to have all the absentee ballots and stuff. If they have to arrive there by then.
Oh, they have to arrive. They're not going to be counted by then.
No, they have to arrive by then. So that's another day, basically. And then they have to count all of them. So she said it could take until that day or the next day for them to actually have what you would call the certified tally of everything. So.
But there's a difference between absentee and mail ballots, isn't there?
Yeah, we don't have it. I don't think we have any mail ballot. These are absentee ballots.
These are all absentee ballots.
Yeah, we only have absentee ballots, so
okay.
They have to get them there. So, and I asked her, well, say, how many people have voted so far? And if I recall, she couldn't give me the town, county, because it's all lumped together. But I think it was somewhere around 8,000 people have already voted, early voting.
For the county and the count, okay.
And I think she said we had 2,000 absentee ballots. She said way more. This is way up. Yeah, so that's good. I mean, I like it. People voting,
So they don't count the absentee ballots until after the election, or can they count them just like they voted?
I think they wait. I'm not sure.
Why do you think they would wait if it's in there? Why don't they just?
Maybe they do. I don't know how they do that, but that's an interesting topic. Yeah. And after the election, we'll sit down with Carol and we'll ask her how all this process works, because I think people really want to know.
Yeah.
They want to know that their vote is counted, and I think that's the bottom line is. And I think a lot of people that I've talked to said, I'm going to wait till election day because I want to make sure my vote is counted. But the early voting thing is great. It's helped a lot of people that were afraid to go out or do it. So I'm just surprised of how many people every day go over there. They say it's several hundred people a day are there voting. So.
And I assume it's pretty calm. It doesn't seem.
No, it's not too bad because it's not as crowded, obviously,
right.
And you don't have people at the polls yelling at you, "Vote for me, vote for me."
Well,
so.
I think they do, but I still have.
Well, but it's not. It's not in 5 locations. We have one location, so it's a little intense on election day. So it's. But I think it's great that people get out and vote, because especially in local elections, I think it's really important. Because as we say, as the way that town and county go, the state goes, the country goes. So I think we need to really drive people to the polls and make sure they get involved in their local communities, because local. I like your mask. Local issues matter.
Yes.
And that's what really affects your day-to-day life, is things that happen in our community. Things that happen on national level take a long time to trickle down, and they get filtered by the states and the towns and counties. So by the time they reach us and reach our pocketbook, people have already taken their cut out, so to speak, and we don't feel the brunt of it, depending on how the media, describes it. It doesn't doesn't really affect us, because, we get people elected all the time. You're congressman, you're president, but, your day-to-day life doesn't really change that much. But your town council and your mayor and your board of supervisors, they can have they got a little more impact on your day-to-day life than, say, the president or the senators or your congressman does.
Latasha has been interviewed,
Mm-hmm.
and she brought up something interesting. She doesn't know why the mayor is only elected 2 years. And she said, "Why? For continuity, it seemed like it'd be better to have a mayor elected 4 years."
I don't know. Maybe they couldn't get someone to last that long.
Maybe so. We're not too nice to mayors.
You get beat up pretty hard as a mayor, and if you're doing it right, you get wore out. I mean, it's a lot of work, for a job, and to do it right, you have to be out in the community, talking to people, representing the town.
Right.
You go to a lot of meetings, and. I was talking to Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Walt Mabe. He said he didn't really realize how much. I mean, it's a full-time job.
Oh, it is?
It is for him, and I can remember when Mayor T-Walt was the mayor his first time, he spent a lot of time in the community. He said, if you're not retired or have a job that allows you to be off, and
Right.
and I remember when Mayor Dar, he worked at the Pentagon,
Right.
and he had to use a lot of vacation time as his job as mayor. So you really have to devote, a lot of time to the job, and and you have to get people to help you. And that's what we talked about the last time about the committees that the mayor can appoint. That's how you get the community involved, is appointing some of these committees, maybe to just talk about tourism, economic development,
Right.
workforce housing, community policing. We've all talked about these
We're
topics.
talking about affordable housing. not
Affordable, yeah.
Afford-
I don't really like the word because it really is based upon, it's an income-based housing project.
That's right.
And so I'd rather call it affordable housing or home ownership initiative or something, because that's what we want. You want to we want to reduce the amount of rentals. We have way too many rentals,
Yes, I agree.
and we need to drive people into home ownership because that's how they get roots in the community. If you're living in an apartment and someone offers you a job out of our community for a couple $1,000s more a year, you can just give your 30-day notice and you're gone. When you own a house and your kids are in school and it's a little more difficult to say, well, I'm going to cost me $10,000 to sell my house. I'm not going to take a $2,000 increase in a job. So it takes a little longer for people to rotate in and out of the community when there's home ownership. And then there's that sense of belonging that you have in home ownership as well. And there's that pride that you have in home ownership. And I think that's what's important about these initiatives that we can get started. Yes, it's important. We do need to have rental properties for people that are on a little lower income of people.
Yeah.
But you don't want, we have, people use that 70% of our communities in that kind of rental when it should be maybe around 40%.
Yeah, about 40 or 50 is the normal.
Is the normal.
Yeah.
And then once you reach a higher percentage, it really changes the community, the image of the community. And then it's hard to drive businesses to your community. They look at all those numbers. They look at rentals. They look at education level. They look at the schools. There's a lot of things that they look at in order to decide, well, not just because people want a Chick-fil-A, they're going to come.
Right.
There's a lot, that's a big investment for these companies to locate in our community, and they want to know, they look at all that stuff. I mean, and they don't look just what it is today. They look at what it's going to be like in 5 or 10 years.
That's right. Well, Mike, we've gone through a lot. In the last couple of years, we've gone through a pandemic, or still involved in it.
Sure.
By the way, the numbers are rising here in our communities and hospitals as we see that happening now.
Yeah, but we also have a rise in opioid deaths, and it's almost like we've lost more people to drug overdoses than we've lost to the virus. And it's almost like we're going to have a pandemic of opioid things or all sorts of drug abuse. So that's another project that our community is going to have to seriously look at. What are we doing? What are we doing about that?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. A lot of the other candidates also have been talking about this, what's called community policing.
Right.
And we had it 10 years ago or so, and it seemed to be very successful back then. It made it much more easier for me when I was involved. Do you think that's something we should bring back? And does that have an effect on the possible drug and other type of things that program?
I think it does, because what it does, it involves the community. The police can't do it by themselves. They really require and really rely on the community providing them information. You watch it on TV, everybody's a CI, a confidential informant, but that's really what the police work, the way I understand it, and that they rely on that, and they appreciate all the little tips, and they're the eyes of the community, and that's really what this community policing is about, is involving the community. If you see something, say something. We've heard that phrase used all about, and that's part of it, and I think that we want to it's kind of like what you used to call neighborhood watch.
Right.
That's community policing. And, it's more than Aunt Biddy sitting in there peeking out the window, that you see on the Andy Griffith show, but it's kind of over stereotyped, but it's really what it is. People watching out for their neighbors. When people, when you used to know your neighbors. One of the things a project that I been on the internet, that's where all the truth happens. That's not really true.
No, that's
but
not true.
one of the things I thought was really clever of a community is the community put together a trailer, and they called it XYZ Town Block Party. And what they did is they stacked chairs, tables, canopies, traffic cones, and they said for $25 you can rent this trailer. We'll bring it out to you and pick it up, and you got everything you need to do a community block party.
Really?
And so that's how you find and meet your neighbors. And I think that's going to be one of my committees is our block party committee. So I think we'll find somebody. Maybe we'll talk to Tony Krim and he'll come up with one of his trailers. We can advertise his. But there's people out there that got these kind of resources and tables and chairs and I've talked to A.D. Carter. Him and I are going to plan one for our block. And I've talked to the chief of police. He's all in favor. He said it's a great idea, So, and it goes back to the community policing. Sheriff Butler, he ran on community policing.
Yeah.
I've talked to the Chief McGillis. He's in favor of it. He loves it,
Oh, good.
And it's just putting all the pieces together. They've talked about it over the years, and the council said, well, we want a police officer to walk up and down Main Street. So they get somebody. We've had our previous chiefs we've had. So they said, you're going to walk up and down Main Street. You don't want to walk up and down Main Street. So he'll do it for a day or two, and next thing you know, they find an excuse. Well, I got to go do this. I got to go do that. And next thing you know, no one's walking up and down Main Street again. If you walk up and down Main Street, you need to have somebody that wants to do it, that can communicate and say hello. I tried to get in a conversation with one of the police officers. But he just wasn't into it. Nothing against him as an individual or his capabilities, but this is what the community police can do. They can walk up and down. We used to have the little, the
VIPs. It's called
the VIPs, and they had their little uniform and their badge on there, and it's kind of like, in the old days you seen the parking meters, But they rely on those parking meters to make the world go around in these cities. But anyway, those are the kind of people that can be our ambassadors and our champions for our town.
Mike, it was interesting because, we have the tree stewards.
Right.
And now with pandemic, it's kind of set them back because they're in that age group where it's a little more scary.
Sure. More mature.
The more mature group. But, they have 40, 50 strong, and they had trees going all over this place.
Yeah.
And, they were very active and everything else, and volunteers. And I think at the heyday of the VIPS program, which is what volunteer in policing.
Right.
They had between 40 or 60 people who just love to go to parades and love to do stuff.
Exactly.
And I think the difference, what I see now back then, is that we have people who help, but a lot of them are a little bit more aggressive, I think, in their political views versus back when I remember, there was just, hey, I knew you, or we knew everybody, hey, Paul, how you doing?
Sure.
And it was that sense of community, I think, that, you wouldn't want to do.
That's what we need to bring back. And it's not really police per se, because people think they're cops,
Right.
But, in fact, that's almost like blending them in with our tourism department, because they're your ambassadors. And maybe, it's all involved into that project. We need to look at it and see, but you find people want something to do. I mean, look at the people that volunteer at the visitor center and the hospital. I mean, you go in there, it's full of volunteers. And so people do want to be involved, but you just got to find something that they can do. Maybe they're not as mobile, they can't walk around, but maybe they can. Well, you go to the dog park and look at the people that show up there and the community that people get involved in.
Right.
And so we just need to find those kind of things. There's plenty to do. And we could find something almost for anybody, to do it and become part of the community and get to know your neighbor. Yeah. And all that revolves around, that'll take a load off the police and our sheriff, and it'll just make things better.
Well, I think, I'm glad to hear you support that, and a lot of other new
100%.
Candidates are supporting it too, because I think it's a very cost-effective way to get the community involved, get them looking, and now especially with cell phones. Instead of the little...
Everyone's got a camera.
She has a little camera now filming everything.
If you notice on the news, it's the cell phone coverage is what gets played, and that's why I don't understand, like, aggressive drivers. I said, what are you doing? I mean, everyone will drop a dime on you. I mean, in the old days, you had to stop, get the phone, and now they just pick it up. They got you on video, and they send that on to the state police.
Text it or email it.
And then next thing you know, 2 miles down the road, you see them pulled over. Well, that's how they find. I mean,
No.
they rely on that. They got an app for that. You know, they 511 app.
Well, Mike, let me change direction here just a little bit because I want to follow a little bit up on this, affordable housing
Yeah.
and things like that. And we've had these things happen. The all the stuff with the EDA and just all the stuff that's happened this year. We're trying to get past that. But as an outcome of the pandemic, of course, the realtors tell me this is one hot housing market out here now.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is a lot of these houses that were rentals, okay, they're actually going to put them on the market and they're being snapped up as soon as they hit the marketplace because I guess people have realized they can run their businesses and it'd be much better running it out here than it would be in a very concentrated urban area. So that's going to drive housing prices up here. I would assume that probably is going to bring economic growth here in a weird way. I mean, it's kind of a weird way we're going to get some of it where you have to balance it. What are some of your thoughts on how you want to handle it, or how would you handle that, or you just let it kind of happen?
Well, it's going to be, you're going to have some of that growth just organically because people are going to realize it. We see that, I mean, they're moving out of California and going to Arizona. Right. It's driven the housing market up in Arizona, right. In New York City. I mean, these large companies are realizing, I think Microsoft says, we're going to remote working is going to be a permanent fixture going forward. They have some guidelines for it, but I think you're going to see a lot of companies realize they were kind of forced into it. Everybody said, "Oh, I like to work from home." It's not what it's cracked up to be. Yeah. It's hard to work from home, but there's some jobs that make. My son hasn't been to the office since March. Right. He's here visiting with us now, but he'd bring his computer, and that's what he does. He's monitoring people's computers in St. Louis. So the fact that you can do things, he's never been to the office. Yeah. So they're realizing, whoa, I don't have to have a desk for him. Or I don't need that 8,000 square feet. Maybe I only need 4,000 square feet. So we're going to see changes, and when there's change, there's opportunity. We just have to be able to focus on the opportunity side and say, hey, how can we benefit from this? It goes back to our tourism. But maybe we need to, part of our tourism and part of our marketing for our town, we need to be looking at Northern Virginia area and saying, hey, we're out here, we're more than just, come here to look at leaves when they change. You can run your business from here. We have we have good schools, we have good, amenities. We got a Walmart. My gosh, we got a Walmart, and a lot of small towns don't have that. We got a Walmart.
I don't know whether that's
well, I mean, but that drives the.
Oh yeah.
Look what the Walmart did to our town, good or bad. Look at the economic development that happened. Our corridor wouldn't exist without Walmart.
That's true.
So things build around it, and it's like when you build a McDonald's, what happens? Then you get a Burger King and a Taco Bell and a Lowe's. So
Target
is right, a Target. So you see things that you pretty much know that when this comes. Then something's going to come around it because that's all part of that economic development. And, we had some empty buildings over in one of the plazas. Now we've got Big Lots expanded. They looked at us, hey, we've expanded into the food line.
Have you been there lately? It is really an enjoyable shopping experience for someone like me who don't like to shop.
Right. And then Harbor Freight, you would think, well, like, why?
Yeah.
Rural King, I thought, why in the world are they coming to Front Royal and taking over 100,000 square feet Kmart or something, But you know what? They've been an economic boom, and they cranked through some sales there. And but again, we have our workforce. We need to have enough people that can work in these places. And, our unemployment is down. Everybody's got a for sale sign up. Yeah. So we have to, not for sale, a help wanted sign. Yeah. Now hiring. I've seen one coming in this morning on the billboard, now hiring. So we have to have these service jobs. And what will happen is, just like when Avtex was working, people commuted in from West Virginia to work at Avtex. And I think that's what we're seeing. We have people leaving our community going to Northern Virginia to work, and people from other communities are coming to Front Royal to work. And so you have to have a balance, and that's a long-term project that requires some serious vision and some thought. about, and that's what you work with your zoning and your planning to make it. And you just don't want anybody and everybody business, so to speak.
Well, it can't be just ad hoc.
Right, and that's the way a lot of communities are.
Planned. Yeah, just wait. I mean, I don't know what kind of system we had in place to attract the two companies you talked about, the tool company and everything else. But they just found some advertising or something just came in. Can you imagine what would happen if we had a dedicated, plan to actually go after some of these people, to let them know the opportunities and go after them?
So that's where we have to study the data that we do have, our workforce, our education level, our assets that we have that people can build or move into, and then say, what are we lacking in our community? What will work here? Right. The other side of it is that what will work with our transportation, our UPS terminal, our inland port. They may not need any of the amenities per se, but we have those location. And I think location is our main asset at the moment. Our location is what's going to drive our future economy.
Location. We have it here.
And I think it's been, I don't like to use the word squandered, but I don't think it's taken full advantage of. And I think it's more like, whoever shows up, oh yeah, go ahead, sign the lease, and instead of targeting the message of
it's no real concentrated effort either through the EDA or the town plan. Or I think, like you said, your first committee should be, how do we capture this opportunity, and what do we have to do to attract these people, and then have a clear plan of what they get if they come.
Right, and we've done study after study. I'm sure when you were the town manager, you could go to your library and pull out a study on about any topic that there is. Yep. And I remember Mayor Tewald saying, "We've studied this thing to death." They wanted to do a study of how to pick up the trash. He said, "I can do that in about 30 minutes, but no, we had a $30,000 study how to drive around and how to pick up trash cans." Yeah. And it seems like we studied it to death. So the time I think we've done the studies phase. Now let's take our data and let's have some action. People want to, even if we go down a path and maybe it's not the right path, but we'll know that and we can pivot and turn and try that. People, I'm tired of people, we tried that before, it doesn't work. Well, maybe it didn't work with those people, but it could work today. Everything has changed, and I think we need to continue the change and try to embrace these new paradigms that we have in this direction, and saying, look, this is the way things are going. We need to be able to look at it. Even in our industry, we started off making 4-track, 8-track tapes, if anybody knows what those are. Open reel tapes, vinyl records.
I have no idea what they are. Tell me what
you had them in your car, I know. But, we've adapted our technology. We didn't have the internet. When I went to school, we had to take correspondence courses where you filled it out and mailed it in and got it back. 2 weeks to get your mail back. So
I hope we're not going to talk about punch cards and IBM.
Well, we had that too. So I'm saying technology has evolved. The problem is our ordinances and our laws have not kept up with the technology, and so we need to go and review our town ordinances to say, does it really apply? Our parking and internet. We got to be strong on our broadband. We have choices now. Glow Fiber has come into the community. There's other people doing it. Our television, our internets are now, dial-up. I can remember when dial-up came. We thought that was, wow, we had dial-up,
Boric 2.
Oh, yes.
It's coming out, but it's not coming out in the theaters.
Nope.
It's coming
direct streaming.
That is absolutely amazing to me.
And that's not the only one. A lot of movies are coming. That whole industry is going to change. That's right. And so they're streaming direct. So this is the technology. It's coming, and we need to be able to have vision to say,
how are we going to
utilize it, and how is it going to benefit our community, and is it going to provide our jobs and our way of life and our culture? We don't want to turn into Silicon Valley, but we want to maintain our small town charm that we have, and what really drove people to come to this community in the first place. And I think that's what's important, and that's why we need a town council that is focused on that, a mayor that's focused on that. That is not going to benefit from whatever action the council takes. It's just where I was talking to Stevie Hubbard. She said, "Well, rising tide raises all ships."
She's absolutely
and
right.
So we need to think about that. And if it benefits me, it'll benefit you. And and not just one-sided things. We had years ago, we staffed our EDA with all our land developers. That was not a good optics, and so there's a lot of people that felt that, they benefited for every little transaction that went on, or we put real estate agents on these boards and things, and maybe that's not the best. And if you look at the board makeup today, you don't have that. You got people that have some vision, that have they're not just like, say, years ago, the term rag merchants was the people that were on your town council. That was your downtown business people that ran the clothing stores and the factories and things like that. That was your town management, and that everything was focused. That's why our downtown is like it is today. It's not, I can remember, I tell people, I looked at the comprehensive plan of 1957, and the drawing showed all new modern buildings on Main Street. Yeah. Well, the town council of 1958 was rag merchants, so I guess, nothing has changed. So, we need to be able to think, where's our town going to go? And the council, our town manager takes care of the day-to-day things.
That's right.
Our town council is the one that's taking care of the 5, 10, 15, where they got to do it and get out of the day-to-day minutia. It's right. That's not the job of the town council. They want to know that their town manager's doing the right job. And that's the focus on the leadership. They think that people think the town council solves all the problems, and that's not how our form of government works here. So, if they can provide the proper leadership to the manager and hire the right person to do the job, here's the thing that happens in business, and this. You've started, and folded, and sold, and bought, lots of companies, and we change the job to fit the person, instead of changing the person to fit the job. Mm-hmm. That's like rule number one. And we all do it. Yeah. I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. You've modified things. Oh, he's such a nice person. We'll find a place for him. Right. And, we just hate but that's not the job for you. Let's see if we can find something for you. But the job I hired you for needs to be done. And it's happened all through the town and the county and every other business in town. And that's something that it's going to be hard to change, but as long as we know that we're doing it, we can minimize it and try to help people move up, because that's the other thing. We got a good staff. We got people that working in the public works department, and they've been there a long time. They don't miss any work. Why aren't we allowing them to move a lateral move into the next department? Some of them want to move from working picking on the back of a trash truck, and I want to work over in the water and sewer plant, and they don't allow that, or they reluctantly allow it. So,
well,
because they're so good over here, we don't want to lose them.
Well, look, Mike, the biggest changes that I think Front Royal is going to face in the future is called workforce training.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
And you got to attract industries here, and then you got to be able to train the people to be able to do the new jobs. And I had a conversation with, I think she's Vice President of Workforce Development over at Lord Fairfax. Mm-hmm. And she laid a couple facts on me, which I was just blown away. Our total workforce here in Front Royal, if you're trying to attract industry, is probably about 22,000, okay, within our little 35,000. Mm-hmm. And the breakdown is about 8,000 of those are people who could benefit from workforce training, okay, retraining.
Right.
And there's about 15,000 of pretty good workforce, trained workforce that travels down into the city. Mm-hmm. So she was saying that if I was a community, that I would, that would be one of the little check boxes where you say I got 15,000 possible workers that are trained and 8,000 non or retrainable. Now she says there will be a certain segment of that, she doesn't know whether it's 30 or 40%, that just will not step up to the plate because they're kind of caught in the system and they can't get out.
Right.
But you're still looking for at least probably 4,000 that can, if you had a good job training center here, that could the companies could utilize to train and attract these people. That is a substantial workforce. And that's the kind of thinking you got to think.
That's what you got to have. And we have, I think the Lord Fairfax and the whole state community college system is underutilized.
Oh, it is.
And we don't really realize that. We all think we need to send our kids off to
four-year university.
Virginia Tech or University of Virginia or some other state, when really they realize they need to have that local community college thing to kind of focus their attention on where you're going to spend your $60,000 a year when you could go over here for a few $1,000s a year and focus on things that maybe be a little more important. And the retraining, they have a big retaining workforce training program at Lord Fairfax College, and we're using it right here in town over there at the EDA parking lot, and training over the road drivers, and they leave that with a job,
Yeah.
making good money.
But Mike, I mean, one of the things that this community hasn't done is the planning. And
Exactly.
What you've been, I've watched your campaign. Your whole campaign is based on making a plan and executing the plan. I mean,
Exactly.
I've noticed to your competitors, I have talked to you twice. You have outlined programs and policies and what you want to see done. And I haven't really seen anything other than the same old, I won't increase taxes, I live here, and I'm a good guy type of scenarios. But on the other hand, I've also seen some of the other new candidates who are very much like you, are ready for a change, and they want to see things differently. Now, the only thing that really kind of not upsets me, but just kind of rubs me the wrong way, is as some of the people who are knocking on door to door, and I've asked some of the other candidates come in, is what seems to be on the mind of the citizen. This is the guy you walk up to the door.
Sure.
And they've kind of surprised me. Now, since you've been out campaigning, now you're down to the last 1 week. What have you seen from the people you have talked to, or the major concerns that they have outside our 20 that we thought?
Well, right. The one of the concerns obviously is jobs. They and EDA and all this. They want things done. I mean, really, when you focus it down, when you talk to them, what they really want is they want to see something getting done.
Okay. Yeah.
And it evolves around the EDA, the job, the town manager, and they throw out the word the good old boys. People are tired of the good old boys. And they really think that that's kind of where their attention is. It's all about time for a change. And they want something to happen. And they've been waiting for, we got a scandal, but it just kind of fell apart. Well, and everybody says, well, I expected that. That's what's going to happen. No one's ever going to be done because they're part of the good old boy machine.
Right.
And I think that's the part, that's really focusing on, when you narrow it all down, from potholes to whatever, is they want to see something get done.
Right.
And they want to see people take responsibility. And they're looking for leadership to drive it out. And I think that's true all the time in everything. We're looking for somebody to be the champion. And that's what I've been trying to tell people, all of us involved in the council, the mayor, all the employees. We need to be a champion for our town. We need to be focusing on the things that are good. And when there's some bad things, just take care of it.
Right.
Don't be, we throw out the word transparency, but part of that is, kicking the can down the road and ignoring it is not going to fix the problem.
Right. Well, it's funny that in my corporate experience, I've learned that it's not about the problems you have, it's how you handle it. And your company's going to produce a product that's bad, or whatever it is, but it's all based on the character of the company, which says, yes, you're right, we did it, we'll replace it, or we'll do this. It's all about how you handle these things. And I think the point you're making is that we've had these problems and we just haven't handled them very well.
That's right. It's our company policy. We can't do that.
Right.
When it's a 50-cent fix, just do it.
Right.
And that goes back to empowering your employees to make decisions. Everything doesn't have to be run by me. You can make a decision, Right. And if it's wrong, we'll fix it. And as long as it helps the customer and it helps the company, we have to do it. We don't like doing sometimes eating it,
Yeah.
But you know what? In the long run, it's easier, faster, cheaper, better just to do it over and forget it, or just make the decision and go on. I can remember years ago when I first started business, I had a workers' compensation, project or complaint. Not really complaint, but a draw. They wanted to draw workers' comp or unemployment or something. Yeah. And my CPA told me, he said, it's $200. The problem, you've already wasted $200 of your time thinking about it. He said,
right.
It's not a big deal. Just move on. The system works that way. Forget it. I can remember our Congressman Goodlatte. We were talking about, Medicare fraud and how come you're not doing this and how come you're not doing that? He said, at best, it's $10 million. Now, that sounds like a lot of money, and he said, I hate to use the word, but that's chump change.
Yeah.
He said, we got a $10 trillion, and to say $2 million. So that's kind of the line that, we look at it, $10 million, that's a lot of money. We got to get in there and find out where all those pennies went to. And so we have to put things in perspective. And that goes back to our COVID, that goes back to our work, unemployment. We need to calm down a little bit, put it in perspective. And I like to put the positive things, and I don't want to say that, I want to go back to the virus thing, because that's affecting everything. That's affecting our tourism, our economic development, our housing, and just our community in general is the way the virus has been treated. And yes, it's real, and yes, people die, but let's look at the big picture of it. We live in a country with 331 million people. Do you realize 331 million people? And yes, people have died, but we realize 8,000 people a day die in this country. I'm processing, my mother-in-law passed, and I went down to Maddox, and I said, do really 8,000 people die? And he said, yes, they die every day. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to diminish anyone dying. I mean, it's tough. No one wants to see their loved one go, but it's part of life. We're not going to get out of this world alive. And I think we need to prepare for that. And that means families need to prepare for their retirement. They need to plan for their education. They need to plan for their families going forward when they're not here. And so we don't do that. We think we're going to live forever. So go back to the COVID thing. Let's just put it in perspective. There are going to be some people that die, but there's going to be more people that live. And I think the numbers show 97.5% of the people that get it are going to survive or not going to get it at all. But we need to do everything we can to diminish those deaths. If we have to wear our mask, let's wear our mask. If we have to social distance, let's social distance.
I agree.
But, if you wear a mask, you're still going to get the virus. It's not going to keep you safe. And I think that's the point. But it may help. It may not. But if that does help, then I always say, let's not cause our brother to stumble. We need to go in. We shouldn't be doing things to aggravate people and make things worse. It's just a mask. Wear it. If you need to go into a place and they got a sign that says wear a mask, put your mask on. We don't need a whole big drama over wearing a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, then don't wear a mask. But stay away from people that do. So I think we just need to use common sense, practice our good hygiene that we've used our whole life. We know that. Wash your hands, stay away from people who are sick. And if you're sick, stay home. And go to the doctor and use your health care. But don't live in fear. I mean, we need this. The virus is not going to go. If we had a vaccine tomorrow, it's not going to go away. It's going to take time for things to happen. And, we've been working on vaccines for a lot of diseases for a long time. And don't look for the government to handle all your problems. You need to get out there and do the things that you can do to help you, help your neighbor, help your community. And there's a lot of those things that can happen. So I just don't want people to live in fear. Our life's going to go forward. If I pass away tomorrow, guess what? You're still going to be here. You know what I mean? So, and life will
But Mike, it just wouldn't be the same.
It would not be the same.
Not sitting across.
But, and again, we don't want to diminish anyone's death because it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been bawling in our family all weekend, so it's tough. But, we have to know that we have, we've done everything we can do, but we can't let our community die because of this.
Well, you got to adjust. It's like just in business. You got to adjust to changing markets.
Be flexible.
And you can't be stuck in it. We've always done it that way.
Right.
And you got to be able to adjust. I mean, the being fluid, being able to adjust quickly is the key to success in any businesses now.
Right.
Where someone starts out in this, you might be in something completely different within 2 or 3 years from what you first started out because the market changed.
Well, and look at people that go to college and get a degree in something. Most people never work in the field where they got their degree in.
Yeah.
Most people don't because that's not how you get a job.
But wait a minute, we're getting off here a little bit.
I know we're getting off.
Let's tie it back to our community, okay? Most of the people are just worried about their lives.
Exactly.
Okay? They want to trust people who they think will take care of them. That's what a republic is. You elect people that will take things in their hands that they'll know that I don't have time to do it. So
exactly.
That's why I like
That's
you.
exactly right.
Do you think in Front Royal have we moved away from so much just a likable vote party line type of deal to more, things that are really affecting their life, or you still think that as a community we're still pretty much just? I mean, you think we made any changes?
Well, we're always going to have that partisan on both sides, because they try to push national issues down to the local level, and
Right.
and they try to put that label on things. I think most people, if you took a general consensus, most people they vote for the person, and but they also vote on personalities. And sometimes the best person may not have the best personality, but they get stuff done.
Right.
That's what they said about you when you were town manager, but
Well, like I said,
You've got-
50-50. I was in the same arena
Well,
that
well,
you're
you know
in.
what I'm saying.
51% of the people like you, 49 don't
no
like
matter
you.
what it is.
No matter what you do.
But you still have to work with that 49%, and I think that's what's the difference. You need someone that can just work with people and realize that you're never going to please everybody, but the idea is you work for them. Mm-hmm. They're the customer, and and I think when someone that's had a customer service business for 42 years knows how to treat the customer right, and hopefully I've got a lot of employees that have been here 25, 28 years, and they don't stick around with jobs. I got people that have retired and work for me part-time, and I said, why are you working? Oh, I love coming to work,
Mm-hmm.
So you have to treat people right, and yes, have I, got them mad at me a couple times? Probably, but I think we work through it and get people their own power to do things, and sometimes they blow a little steam, but, we look at that as part of how it is, In the old days, I wouldn't have been that way. But as you mature and you get a little older,
yes.
and you're focused on different things, you realize that, there's more to life than just, cranking out the widgets, So you do get involved in people's lives, and, as least you can, but, and that's the way the town is. We're going to be involved in people's lives, but we don't need to be running their lives.
Right.
And I think that's the difference. We need to help people up. I was talking to Michelle Smeltzer, at the DSS, and, if you make $1 too much, you're cut off,
Right.
Whatever the programs are. And, so we need a helping hand, maybe we need a sliding scale so people get an opportunity and don't take it because their benefits get cut off completely, and the reward is not worth the effort. So they stay in that position. And so that's a problem with our system. But because the system is so large, it's hard to manage down to that helping hand level. And maybe that's where our communities and our nonprofits and different organizations can be that center part that can help people move. The affordable housing is a good thing. We take a government program, but we put it on a local level where we can get people that help up and not keep people down their whole life. We need to be able to. Everybody needs to move up.
Right. Well, I mean, I have to bring you back to local issues, but I think community involvement, the local church activities.
Exactly.
Back, when I was a young man, the church was fed people. They took care of people. They took people in. And over the years, it seems like people started relying more on big government to do that versus the local churches. I have a guy, very good, one of my best friends, who's was in my fraternity, now a pastor of church. And that's one of his main complaints is the fact that the church has lost its way. It doesn't do the community service at the local level like they used to. They're more worried about buildings and carpet. Not all churches, but they're more worried about that than actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, what they've done in the past. And I think Front Royal has the opportunity to have a community, actually recreate that community with the right leadership, and stop this divisions between everybody. Councilman Latasha was saying during her interview that Front Royal is a smorgasbord of a lot of different people now. We're just not one type anymore. We have the influence from the cities. We're going to have more city influences coming out here. And that everybody needs to participate and get involved and see that we're all human beings. We're not alienating each other because of anything, whether it's the way you feel or your politics. It's just at the community level that all stops, and that's why I'm excited. But Mike, before I give you your 1 minute to tell the town Front Royal what you want to do, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I wore my mask, Local Lives Matters,
Sure.
everywhere now. I get comments all the time of people, because they can't really see. I'm wearing a hat,
Sure,
or
sure.
sunglasses, and I have my mask on, and they'll go, "That's right, that's what it is." I hope that in another week, as we look back and review this, that I've been able to help people understand what the local issues are and keep it away from the national issues so we can get the best leaders. And that was the whole goal when I approached you on doing this, and I appreciate you letting me
Sure.
do this. And I think that as I got a comment the other day saying this is the first time that they've actually really know the ones that came in actually know what these candidates are standing for.
Right.
And there are a few out there that I still do not know exactly what they stand for and what the changes are going to make. And I hope that the public takes this serious, watches all the videos of everybody who's coming in, and actually see that there are people out there who want to make a difference in Front Royal, not because of the party affiliation or the being a good old boy or whatever it is not can't happen anymore in this
Right.
community. So that I thank you for.
Well, and also that that all the candidates have been invited to come.
Yes.
All 11 or 12 of us have all been invited multiple times
Yep.
to please come. Some just ignored us. Some said, "I'm too busy."
Right.
But I got an email today from someone you mentioned, out of one of our readers, and it says they really appreciate the interviews and being able to focus on the local candidates, and they thanked us for doing it. So,
Especially in all this noise out there with
oh yeah,
national
yeah.
politics.
So they said, "Are we going to be getting any more?" I said, "Well, a few more round twos."
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, thank you for everything that you do," and that reflects on, the Royal Examiner has done that. We've asked you to come in to do it because you have that experience of a town manager. I mean, there's very few of them we've had in the.
And I try to be nonpartisan.
I know you are. And you've done a good job, so I appreciate that. But one thing I want to touch on too, when you talk about our community, life is we're a three-legged community. We have to have our physical, our mental, and our spiritual side of it. And when you take one leg away, you're a little lopsided. So I want to stress on that.
Well, with that, Mike, we have a local citizen actually who has been making these masks. And the first one was, of course, Local Lives Matter. It's nonpartisan. She was so excited about it, so that's who's making
Local
the mask.
issues matter.
Issues, okay. And the next one is I voted 2020. If you don't like that little thing you stick on your lapel,
Exactly, right.
then you can wear one, but you got to vote first before you get one.
Right.
I'll leave the information with you, so if anybody would like to order one of these, they can call the Royal Examiner, and you can put them in touch with the person who's doing it. This person is clearly just doing it out of the goodness of her heart,
Right.
and she just really excited about what she's doing.
Well,
So,
it's true. Local issues do
yeah.
matter.
So, Mike, I'm going to pass on the mask to you.
All
And
right.
I'm sure
I
you wear
appreciate
this everywhere you go
Everywhere
now.
I go,
And
everywhere I go.
But have you voted yet?
No.
I can't give this to you yet. All right. No, I'll give it to you. I trust
I'll
you.
vote. I'm going to vote.
You're going to vote? All right, Mike. So here we are. We've just got the national audience here looking at
Sure,
you.
I
You got 1
appreciate
minute
that.
to summarize why they should
I don't know. It's
vote.
hard to do things in a minute for me. I just get wound up. Takes me that much to get going.
Oh, by the way, I have a little switch
Oh, you
down here that I cut you off after.
cut it off. I appreciate that, Mike. Again, thanks for everything that you've done for us, and hopefully we can squeeze in a couple more people before.
Yeah, I hope we do.
we
I hope they
cut
all
them
come
off.
out because now we're getting down to the wire.
It's down to the wire. We got 1 week to vote, but if you want change, and it's time for change in our community, I would appreciate you voting for McCool for mayor. And vote early if you can. To vote, the cutoff for early voting is October 31st, and then it'll open back up obviously on the 3rd of November. But if you want change in the community, you want to get rid of the good old boy network, you want to have real conservatives, then you need to think about the independent candidates that are running, and we have quite a few of them. And I do want to mention their name. You got Josh Ingram, you got Betty Showers. You've got Gene Tewalt running. I know he's our mayor and he's been on there a long time, but he has great institutional knowledge and he has a love for this community. So that's just few. There's several others. You got Daryl Merchant and Bruce Rappaport are all nonpartisan candidates running. And please, I would love you to support our nonpartisan candidates that have stepped up and said, no more good old boys, and I'm not going to participate in the way that happens. And so obviously, if you want someone that wants to focus on leading the community into the future and with the changes that were going to happen, that's why I ask you to vote for McCool for mayor, and I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks again, Mike.